Hello chess fans, this is a quick recap of round 3 game of Quang against Grandmaster Jeffrey Young. So in this game Quang shows a very deep opening preparation and very deep positional understanding as well. Um, the game starts out as a very calm Queen's Gambit declined, and we quickly enter this exchange variation, and White plays Bishop f4. Both players develop solidly, and now White plays this early h4. Um, this move seems like blundering a pawn, but here if Black plays Bishop takes h4, then there is Queen b3, um, attacking the b7 pawn. If Black plays pawn b6, then there is Rook h4, Queen h4, and Knight takes d5, giving a lot of play for White. If Black decides to capture this knight, then there is Queen d5, forking the Rook on a8 and Bishop on f5. For example, if Black tries to play Knight b6, then White can play a4, and the initiative is with White. So this is the idea of h4, trying to create some immediate imbalance and provoking Black into blundering. But Quang plays a very calm move g6. So as we saw in the analysis, in this position the bishop was under attack because it was not defended. So Quang simply plays g6, defending the bishop on f5, and now attacking the pawn on h4. So now he completely questions the idea of White of playing h4. Now White can play knight g3, but Black will simply play bishop e6 and put the question again on the pawn on h4. Now it looks silly, the knight is not well placed and the bishop is also jammed. If for example White tries h5, then there is pawn g5, and the bishop is getting trapped here. So in this position White tries pawn h5 directly. So but here Quang manages to close the king side, and quickly develop his pieces and castle first. So now White has to uh, show something for all the flank moves he has played, and he has to bring out his pieces and coordinate them. So he starts with bishop e6. Now Quang does not exchange the bishop. He doesn't want to. If he plays for example bishop d3, that allows knight d3. So White develops quickly. So he keeps the bishop in play. He wants to play pawn f5 anyway. So he does a multi-purpose move and keeps the tension on the board. So White decides to move away his bishop and bring his knight to the center. Quang starts f5, trying to open up the center. White continues with knight d3. Black plays knight g4, bringing the knight on the side to the center, also attacking the bishop on h2. White doesn't want to give up the bishop pair yet, so he plays bishop g3. Quang plays knight f6. So now he has coordinated all his pieces. White is yet to castle, and this is a big opening success for Black. Now White has to play carefully in order to save this game. So unfortunately here Jeffrey Young plays knight c5, which allows Quang to open up the center immediately. So he gives up the bishop pair. He immediately takes on c5, and after pawn d5 he plays pawn d4. Now if White plays e takes d4, then simply pawn f4 is the king is in the center and the queen is on the board, and Black has the initiative, and it's going to be a deadly attack. So White tries queen d4 first, and after exchanging the queen, then allows pawn f4, bishop h2, and the beautiful move Quang had calculated, bishop c4. Now White cannot castle, he cannot castle on king side because of the bishop, he cannot castle on the queen side because of knight takes f2. So white's king is stuck in the center. So this is a tragic opening development in such a big event, important round. um, so white tries to defend everything very slowly, starting from saving his bishop pair. Lekong starts with a check, king d2, rook a d8. Now the d4 pawn is doomed. It's very hard to defend this pawn, and black will regain his pawn with a deadly attack. White tries f3, but there is knight e3, bishop e3, pawn e3, king e1, and rook d4. So this is already a clearly winning position for black. All Lekong needs to do show is his technical strength. White tries to exchange his inactive piece. Um, Black activates his rook to the open file. Rook h3, king f7, knight e4, knight e4, pawn e4. Now the e3 pawn is about to die, but e3 pawn before dying helps the rook to go to the 7th rank and continue the attack and restrict white's king. White plays pawn b3, bishop e6, rook e3, rook g2. Now this endgame is clearly, I mean, black has a very big advantage, but he has to create passes. So he has targets. He has a2, he has h5. Now white tries to save the a2 pawn by playing bishop e2, but here Lekong finds a very nice way to create passes. He plays rook h2. Now g4, the g pawn is already a passer, but he's going to win the h pawn as well in a very nice way. Now notice that white cannot play rook g3 aiming for counterplay because there is king f6, and if white tries pawn e5 check, then there is king f5, and if bishop g4 check, king f4. So simply forking the bishop and the rook, so the king just moves up the board, and if bishop e6, then simply king g3. So the counterplay is too slow. So here white tries pawn e5. Quang blocks the line of defense of the bishop, and now the h5 pawn is doomed. He captures it and creates this beautiful connected passed pawns. This position is already resignable, but white asks some questions. Quang plays bishop c8 and defends his only weakness on the board. And now he will start pushing the pawn on the king side. Now the only piece that is in an extremely defensive position is bishop c8, and the king cannot move up the board because the rook will enter the 8th rank and cause some problems. So Quang maintains the king on e7 first and exchanges this bishop and keeps pushing the pawn. Now now the white is clearly stuck because his king has to stay close to these connected passes, and the rook cannot leave the h file. For example, if white tries rook d4, then simply rook h5 is winning, is trying to create a queen. If king h2, then pawn g2, queen next move. So white is stuck, so he tries a few moves to stop black king from advancing. First Quang defends his weakness before advancing his king d5. He gives a check, he goes back and captures it, pawn a6, pawn a6, pawn a5. Now white is saying, trying to stop the king from advancing, but simply rook g6. White cannot give up the h file, so if he goes somewhere else, then it allows simply king d4, for example. King d5 is clearly winning for black. So white resigned. So very nice game by Quang. So he showed solid positional understanding, and he opened up the center when the king was white's king was stuck in the middle, and very instructive technique as well.